What's up, everybody? Back with another little SSPN short here. We're going to be talking about the Spurs getting the ninth pick in the draft. Ethan, I know you were in Disney World.
I
Wasn't
was.
it this? It wasn't the Disney World present you were expecting. You were hoping that 20% in the top four, but nonetheless, still a top 10 draft pick, something the Spurs haven't had in a long time, and still the highest pick in their rebuild. What are your thoughts on this position, and maybe what the Spurs can do with it?
It's about where they were projected to be. I still think that there are some players out there at this spot that we can pick up to help our team. It just depends on where we want to go. Do we want to go with best available because that might be a guard again, or do we want to try and maybe reach a little too high and go for like a Tari Eason who might drop to 15 or so? It really depends on what the Spurs are looking to do. Personally, I would like to get what we need most, which is a 4 or 5 or even a 4-3 combo. Somebody taller than 6'5", Jude, that can play the power forward position. That's long and can play defense. That's what I would like to see, and I think that could be available at 9. And we have found some gems in this 9, 10, 11 range in the past. Devin Vassell, Joshua Primo, so it can be done. I'm just excited to see what our front office does because they've been making some pretty good moves as of late, especially at that trade deadline, Jude.
Yeah, I'm really excited to see what Brian Wright does in his first. Well, it was his first draft last year. That was with Primo. In his second draft here, and there's a lot of Spurs staff at the combine. I got some intel. Well, not really some intel. It was an athletic article that my friend Drew King sent to me, and I'm going to go ahead and check that out on Twitter because there were some takeaways from the Spurs front office at the combine. And remember last year, nobody was expecting Josh Primo to be who the Spurs picked, but at the combine, he showed out, and we saw what ended up happening. So not only did the Spurs have a lot of staff there, but there's a couple other things going on, like Primo, Josh Christopher, Quentin Grimes. Those were the type of guys that kind of stood out in this combine. So there's been a couple names that have popped up on the Spurs radar, a couple that they've been looking at. I remember there's this 18-year-old on Twitter. Of course, I can't remember who it was, but some of y'all might know who I'm talking about. I think he actually might be 19. But one that I do remember the name of is Marjan Beauchamp. And he is kind of, well, unfortunately, he's 6'6", but he's still kind of that. He plays a little bit of the four, in that kind of 3-4 role. That's somebody that they've been looking at that you could maybe watch out for around like that 20 pick. Tari Eason has Kawhi-sized hands. That is another thing to keep an eye on. And if you want to compare him to another kind of 3-4 wing or 4-3 wing that the Spurs may be looking at in Jabari Walker from Colorado, who could be available in that range. If you compare their body fat percentage, Tari weighs 217 pounds, and he has a 4.5% body fat percentage. Jabari Walker weighs 213 pounds, so 4 pounds less than him, and has a 12.3% body fat percentage. And I know that we're getting super nitty gritty into the numbers, and at the end of the day, it's basketball that matters. But I think that Tari Eason is potentially, it's somebody that the Spurs have been talking about for a while. I've even mentioned on this show how I wasn't the biggest fan of him, but after seeing how he did at the combine and seeing his numbers as well as his wingspan, in comparison to a lot of these other 3-4 wings, like I mentioned, I'll use the Jabari Walker example. I believe he had about a 68-inch reach or a wingspan. Jabari had a 72-inch wingspan. That might have been a different stat, but the point is, Tari Eason, whenever it comes to his physical attributes, on top of the fact that he was able to be the best player on LSU and still be the sixth man because it was best for the team, that's something that is very intriguing for the Spurs. Although, if last year taught us anything, whoever the Spurs we expect to draft, they're probably going to pick somebody different. But
Mm-hmm.
just keep an eye on the combine. That would be the main thing that I would say whenever it comes to this ninth pick, because that's what happened last year, and that's really what made the Josh Primo pick happen. And it ended up working out well for the Spurs. But like you said, the other two names I would watch at this ninth pick, AJ Griffin and
Mm-hmm.
Shaden Sharp, especially Shaden Sharp, because he didn't practice very much at Kentucky. He didn't go to the combine, and that's only going to make him fall more. But coming out of high school, he was like one of the top 5 ranked prospects in the country. Maybe I'm wrong on that, but it was at least top 10. And still has massive upside when you look at some of the plays that he's made. And so that's another name that I would watch if the Spurs do end up going with another 6'5", 6'6" guard.
Nikola Jovic is another one that I kind of like him. I haven't watched a lot of film on him because he plays in Serbia, but he's a 6'10" guy that can play small forward, power forward, international prospect. Maybe we reach for him at 9. But then trading's always on the table, Jude, because we don't know. In past drafts, we would think, oh no, that's never going to happen. We're never going to trade. But with my boy Wright, he traded all kinds of people at the deadline, so we don't know what to expect come draft night. We could package all 3 picks, try and move up, maybe get rid of Jakob Pertl because he had a lot of speculation around his name around the trade deadline.
Very movable contract and a valuable player.
Same with Doug McDermott. So we don't know what to expect necessarily, but I wouldn't be surprised if we got a guard in that 2025 pick to kind of back up DeJounte Murray.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see what happens with the trade aspect of things too, like you mentioned, Ethan, because wouldn't it just be, the most, from Brian Wright's track record, it's what you don't expect. So if he's sending a bunch of people to the combine and you're like, oh, he's looking at these, our 20th pick, and I believe we have the 15th, or is it 16th? I don't know. Somewhere in there. I should look that up. I should know that. I know we have the 9th pick. And we have 2 others.
25.
Okay, 9, 20, and 2025. So, or 25, not 15. They may be sending all the people out there, but wouldn't it be just the Brian Wright thing to do to make a trade anyway, even though we sent a bunch of our staff to the combine? They got to lead us on a little bit. So you never know. That would be a big splash. It's going to be interesting. That'll be definitely the thing to watch, but as the Spurs usually do, they'll probably just use all 3 draft picks.
Yep. With all 3 guys that we have never heard of.
Yep. All right. Well, any final thoughts on this 9th pick here, Ethan, and just kind of the Spurs draft in general?
Rebuild starts, baby. Let's get some 3 quality players. I'm excited.
Yes, or let's please trade for somebody that will help us now. Either way. Whatever works. Yes. But we'll see what happens. And once again, thank you guys for checking this out. This was our thoughts on the draft. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video, and to stay up to date with any SSPN content, feel free to follow us on Twitter at Ethan_Quintero and at Jude McLaren. Thank y'all, and we'll catch you guys in the next one.